Morning, everybody, and welcome to the fourth in our series of fireside chats. And we are privileged today to have with us Mahesh Bhai. Mr. Mahesh Rakkar is a chartered accountant by profession, by education, and has been in the financial
and training and everything is actually yes. So you would be now based on
Vinay, we've started the seminar, so if you can just hold on to that private conversation till later. So Mahesh Bhai is a chartered accountant and he's been in the industry since the last 33 years with diverse experience. And if I start reading out his experience, we'll spend a lot of time. So it's enough to say that he has virtually dabbled with every aspect of financial services. He's currently also the Director General of the FIDC, which is the Finance Industry Development Council, and plays a prominent role in dealing with industry, dealing with government, dealing with finance ministry and other regulatory bodies. And he is also, he also is interested in event management and public relations, and is therefore involved with a company which is also involved with event management. So welcome, Mahesh Bhai, and thank you again for taking this invitation. And I'm sure everybody is looking forward to hearing you and your views on an industry which is extremely relevant in the context. So let me start. And the way I'm structuring this, sir, is that we will ask a series of questions to you, which we look forward to your answers and your views. Request everyone else to write their questions into the chat, and we will get Mahesh Bhai, request him to kind of answer those questions towards the latter part of this seminar session that we're having, if you have any questions. And, I must tell you that we have a very interesting segment coming up. So please stay. As with the last segment is a very interesting segment, which we have introduced this time itself, the first time. So let's start, Mahesh Bhai. And if I can go back into history for a minute, and let me start my first question with that. What was the evolution of the NBFC sector, and how and when did this all start? Because a lot of young people on this call who might want to know a little more about how it all started.
Yeah. Good morning, Satish. Thanks you and Athena and the team for this fireside chat. Yeah, before we discuss the current issues and what's the situation, you have rightly put the first question: how did all NBFC started? Today you are looking at NBFC with all the good numbers and good size and good gestures towards the regulators, but it was not so good when I started it. Let's divide. I'll just rush through those history of the evolution so that the background is created for the NBFC sector. You can divide it into pre-1997 and post-1997 till IL&FS debacle happened. Pre-1997, Satishji, you will never believe it was not much regulated, though Banking Regulations Act and RBI Act was there. The regulations were not at all. Deposit taking was rampant. Public deposit, which was very rampant, it was around 10 times of NOF. If you have 1,000 crore in your capital, you can borrow up to 10,000 from the public. So what really happened was many industrial houses, unscrupulous and inexperienced players started NBFCs only with the intention of collecting large deposits from these illiterate and small depositors. At the end of the day, these people were, as I said, inexperienced and unscrupulous. They bullied the investors and depositors. Huge diversion of funds was done because these industrial houses had that intention of funding their own managing companies, and NPAs were generated. Even the public sector DFIs, development financial institutions, which were prevalent earlier, were classified as NBFCs. They're mismanaged. And then came the father of all the scams, the CRB scam, as we said, in 1997. And then RBI and the government of India said enough is enough. And they appointed Shah Committee, Dr. A.C. Shah Committee, at the behest of Narsimham Committee for the banking sector reforms, including NBFC reforms. Very strict regulations came in. A lot of companies were folded up. Regulations were rationalized and from time to time over a period of time. But to the credit of RBI, sir, I would always say that though strict, RBI became the savior of the sector in the economy. And 1998 onwards, we are regulated very strictly. Then let's discuss good old days, that is 1998 to 2008 and then 2011 till date. We have a growth story, contribution and a market share is very well known. We will discuss it. What we do is financial inclusion, which is the buzzword today, but we have been doing since last 8 decades. Funding to automobile sector, transport sector, retail, infra, MSMEs, traders, entrepreneurs, rural, every small sector in the country. In fact, I would say so much that India's growth is led by NBFCs. We are fully regulated, and in fact, in some aspects, we are regulated more than banks. And no major default has happened since 1997 till ILFS. But ILFS is not a typical NBFC of the type which we talk of. ILFS was an infrastructure finance company. Whatever happened, there was a real fraud, and it was a, I would say, private sector company run in the public sector way. There was another company like RCFL, but it was a group-based problem. And if you talk of the third company which defaulted, it was Divan Housing Finance, but it was a housing finance companies. What I'm trying to say is there are, when we talk of an NBFC, it's a general word. But there are four broad categories of NBFCs, four different animals altogether, I would say. Assets and loan financing companies, which we would talk of and we would represent. Third is infrastructure finance companies. Next is housing finance companies, and the fourth is investment companies. Housing is a different perception. Investment companies deal in the share market and to the brokers, and infrastructure finance companies to the long term. So when we talk of the asset and loan financing companies, none of them has defaulted. But what happened is when these companies default, media and the press takes NBFC's scam. So there was overreaction after ILFS from the media and the press. There were liquidity constraints artificially brought in immediately. There were two concerns which were raised, which then within few months we realized that it were wrong. There was never any ALM mismatch, asset liability mismatch for these retail NBFCs. And many of the people felt that NBFCs were undercapitalized. This was also always wrong. Average CRAR, that is capital adequacy ratio, is 20% of all the NBFCs on a continuous basis, whereas RBI has prescribed just 15%. Can you imagine that we are always, for all these years, 30 years, we are much above the prescribed limits. Positively talking, government took a view that a baby cannot be thrown with the bathwater, and hence shunning an entire industry because of certain events like this was not fair. In fact, this could lead to a self-triggered crisis by choking money supply and could in fact harm the investors. Therefore, the regulations now being upgraded from time to time to ensure that only serious players enter the system, and these entries are on a sound and a financial healthy line. So this was up till ILFS and its scam. That is the history. And now we will see the current situation when we proceed further.
Great. I think that's a very good time capsule about the industry. If we come into the present, then what do you see the role of the NBFCs in the financial sector, and how do they complement the banks and the HFCs? And how is the whole comprehensive view of the financial sector?
Yes, role of NBFCs. As I said, the buzzword financial inclusion, which we borrowed this phrase from abroad, but we have been doing this exactly since 8 decades, reaching every nook and corner of the country. We have a personalized touch with our customers, our investors, borrowers, everybody. We have major 4 advantages why NBFCs is a successful model: accessibility, reliability, flexibility, and affordability. We go to the clients, they did not come to us. We are totally reliable because we are RBI registered NBFC and our systems are prescribed. Flexibility is the most important thing. Our terms and conditions and the schemes and the sets of documents, etc., we are flexible. EMIs are structured in a manner which will suit the borrower. In fact, we will not be rigid or inflexible like bankers. And we know that good season, bad season, truckers, farmers, etc., and work out the flexible systems of EMIs. And affordability, because we are in the competitive market, we can't charge high like earlier money lenders. And the difference between banks and NBFCs rates are not more than 2 or 3% nowadays. We have much less NPAs. You know why? Please remember that in the financing business, sourcing, appraisal, and loaning is important, but collection is the most important thing. It's not simple like selling toothpaste. You sell, take money and forget it. No. Collection, you have to be able to collect back the money. That's most important thing. That's why many of our companies give incentives to their guys based on collections and not dispersals. Giving money is an easy thing. Anybody can give it, but it should be able to be collected back. I'll quote from RBI's observations in May 21 bulletin. It's very heartening. Governor himself speaking, as you said, role of NBFCs. And this is latest since May 21 bulletin. NBFCs play an important role in the Indian financial intermediation space by complementing bank credit undertaking, niche financing, and promoting financial inclusion. NBFCs in the retail loan sector stayed ahead of the curve, aided by the relative low delinquency. It is well recognized now that NBFCs are financing productive assets mainly to MSMEs, creating employment, supporting livelihood, contributing to the economic growth of the country. NBFCs are playing complementary role to the banking system and have become integral part of the Indian financial system and furthering financial inclusion. While the regulatory standards of NBFCs are being frequently tightened to harmonize with those applicable to banks, there is an imminent need for the resolution of some of the long-standing and developmental issues. These are a straight quoted from RBI bulletin, so that, nothing like that. Your further question is how we do complement and work together with the banks, housing finance companies, etc.
Right.
Yes. The sector which is important is the BFSI sector, not just the NBFC, for the economy and the country. Broadly speaking, these banks are for higher ups, corporates, wholesale and developmental funding, while housing finance companies will be for housing, including affordable housing. They have a long-term periods of the loaning, 10, 15, 20 years, larger amounts because the asset size is always, more than 50 lakhs of 1 crore. And thirdly, the residual value in this case will be normally very safe because if there are sufficient margins, the housing prices normally do not come down. So these are typical features of housing finance. Whereas we talk of the NBFCs into retail, MSMEs, vehicle and transport sectors. And this assets and loan financing NBFCs are a different ball game altogether. And it requires a specialized skill set. Assets and loan and financing NBFCs are different from infrastructure finance companies and housing finance, which we discussed. In this case, our profile would be 25 to 30% of our assets come back in just 1 year. We talk of typically a gold loan company or these two-wheelers finance, etc. Our liability mix is 60% bank loans, 25% other long-term borrowings, and less than 10% of the CPs. CPs are normally raised by very highly rated NBFCs. Today also average is between 4 and 5% of your borrowing, since market has no appetite for lower rated CPs. There hasn't been any report about the poor quality of assets in NBFCs, retail NBFCs so far. In fact, RBI recently affirmed that there is no need for an AQR, asset quality review, in the NBFC sector. This is a compliment from RBI itself. NBFCs are well recognized, well governed by RBI, and the guidelines for systematically important and deposit-taking NBFCs are as good as bank regulations to the extent applicable. What is the concern to RBI is the big size companies above 100 crores, above 1,000 crores. And if the companies are taking deposits, less than 60 companies are today public deposits, nothing more than that. So those companies are of major concerns, and the regulations for these companies are as tight as what it should be for the banks. I think, switched off.
Yeah,
I'll continue. So what is important? How do we work together? There is always the collaboration versus competition, the close question. What is important is the collaboration. Among BFSI sector, as I said, the players like HFCs and the bankers, we have to partner with everybody among BFSI sector as well as with the customers. With funders like banks and NBFCs, how we do it as we come to further, we will see every assignment or the deal which we do is partnering with some sector of the BFSI. Now the new partners are tech partners like fintech companies and IT companies, because everything is almost online there. Without their support and collaboration, we cannot multiply our business. With the retail consumers like Kirana shops and the traders and the farmers, users and MSMEs, combining each other's strength, we work together with the funders, consumers, as well as the fintech companies. A lot of talk goes about banks versus NBFCs. No, it's completely wrong. It's banks with NBFCs.
right.
We are complementing each other and never a competitor. Size and stature is no match between banks and NBFCs. There's a relationship of a wholesale and a retail trading. Financial inclusion is done by both of us, reaching the last mile. What is important is today collaborating with the competitors. I would say new word is competitive collaboration. We work together, safely in the field. Working together, as I said, the win-win situation for all the players and constituents, and that has worked well for the country.
And the proposed co-lending is an example of collaboration also, with NBFCs and banks.
Definitely, it's a very big thing actually. I'll talk of it a little later. Yes, lovely.
So,
Yes,
historically, if you look at it, we have thousands and thousands of NBFCs, but the real ones which are lending are a handful of, the big ones which constitute 80% of the industry. the regulator also has looked at NBFCs with a little of blow hot, blow cold at times. And I remember from my earlier days when NBFCs were seen to be, not something that the regulator looked at or considered significant. But I think that has changed. And I think FIDC has played a big role. So can you elaborate a little of that aspect of your experience, that how the FIDC has played a big role in getting the RBI and the Finance Ministry to get NBFCs to participate as a body in the process of reforms and regulations?
Yeah, I'll tell you. As I said earlier, in fact, this 2014 to 19, where we saw the growth, great guns, was said to be led by NBFCs. Generally, banks are conservative, slow, and risk-averse. NBFCs funded these most sectors like retail, transport, construction, infra, rural, MSMEs, housing, etc. We went to tier 2 and 3 towns and villages. As we go, then the banks follow that. So what we have to do is continuously research and find out new areas, new avenues, new classes of assets, new borrowers who are totally unbanked. India is a population of 140 crores. Many, more than 50% were unbanked earlier, before the government of India put certain schemes. So NBFCs first reach them, make them bankable, and maybe 2 years, 3 years down the line, they become a bankable customers. Technology also came in handy for us. Contribution, remember this, contribution of NBFC sector to the gross domestic capital formation, which was just 5% a few years back, not much, less than a decade I'm talking of, less than 5-7 years. Today it's 20%, and so that's a significant contributor to the
Very good.
Domestic capital formation. Regulators, lenders, and investors have now to need to look at NBFCs with a positive attitude and as a major contributor to the economy, GDP, automobile sector, MSME, rural sectors. Mind you, NBFCs are here to stay, and the share in the financial market will continue to grow. As somebody said, what is the secret of the success of NBFCs? CSR for NBFC customers means 3 things: convenience, simplicity, and respect. We make our programs as convenient to them. The schemes and the terms and conditions are very simple, and our attitude is very respectful to the customers and suit their requirements. In fact, RBI and Government of India recognize NBFC's role as NBFCs comply to all the norms. They have their own governance standard in place, and none of the retail financing NBFCs ever failed or defaulted or shut in spite of all the turbulent and challenging times.
Absolutely.
You asked about the regulations, right?
Yes.
What are the regulatory things in place and what are the bottlenecks? Perhaps I think that was the question.
Yes. So if you can elaborate a little about how it has evolved and what else is required to be done.
This is my favorite subject. And on this, I can speak for 24 hours next. But
unfortunately, we have 24 minutes more, but yes, I'm listening.
No. This is the issue on which I eat, drink, and sleep every day. At the outset, let me say we are thankful to RBI for the recognition that NBFCs play an important role in the Indian financial intermediation space by complementing bank credit, undertaking niche financing, and promoting financial inclusion. Remember that the oversight standards of NBFCs in general and retail NBFCs in particular now being frequently tightened to harmonize with those applicable to banks. The prominent changes in the regulations, which are more or less along the lines with the banks, is corporate governance and prudential norms, norms for the appointment of statutory auditors, much talked about in recent days, origination of loans, SSM, that is single supervisory mechanism system for supervision, periodic reporting on various key matters, dividend distribution norms. Many other operational matters are being now brought on par with those of banks. It's rather felt that the earlier arbitrage between banks and NBFCs is now getting reversed. There is a proposal for layer-based or the scale-based regulatory norms, which was introduced as a draft regulation in January 21. There is one concern in that small NBFCs issue can be taken care of. They have proposed the threshold limit from 2 crores to 20 crores, which we think is quite high. They asked for the lowering of that to 5 crores and give 3 to 5 years time for the small NBFCs to come to that capital level because the times are turbulent and bad. About the issues which are important for the NBFCs, there are 2. One is about the funding, another ease of doing business. Let's talk of funding first. And there's an imminent need to look at these issues. The funding, availability of bank finance, that's the most important. Let's say 2/3 of our monies come from the banks. NBFCs provide last mile connectivity to micro enterprise, low end of small enterprises, which are underserved by the formal banking channels. Usually the target MSME segment, friends, of NBFCs are new to credit, lower ticket size, and based out of the tier towns. Due to higher operating costs and higher credit risks, banks avoid direct lending to these vulnerable segments. So NBFCs reach there. We reach the last mile. We work as the partners to banks in financial inclusion. As I said earlier, wholesale and retail relationship, and Satish ji, as you said earlier, co-lending model is the evidence that regulators accept. Banks can't reach everywhere. And in a typical transaction of the deal, there are 5 aspects: sourcing, appraising, funding, servicing, and recovery. Simple. When we do a co-lending or partnership with NBFCs, 4 tasks out of 5 are done by NBFCs. We source, we appraise, we service the client, and we recover. Only funding, which is of course the most important, is done by the banks. So understand the benefits of this partnership. It works very well for the entire sector. So that's why we always say that bank funding is the most important thing and should be as easy as possible. There is a proposal that banks get this priority sector tag when they lend it to some of the assets. What we have requested RBI is that allow this priority sector lending through NBFCs for all times. Now they keep on extending this from time to time. Sometimes they put it and then again reduce it, review it. But when the banks lend directly or through NBFC to the priority sector, the target of the government about those lendings are met. So allow that priority sector through NBFCs also.
Sure.
There is a sectoral cap for the banks. You know, when we go to a bank, State Bank will say, oh, we have reached our 10%, 12%, 9% cap for the NBFCs funding. There is a catch in it, you know. Public sector NBFCs are also to be aggregated or clubbed in that. We want that cap to be generally increased and public sector NBFCs to be separately considered. Because when you are giving to an NBFC, you are not giving to an NBFC. NBFC further gives to various sectors. It can be rural, it can be transport, it can be any other thing. So NBFCs generally is not a sector by itself. It distributes among the various sectors. There's another important point which nobody notices is banks have generally no separate lending policies for NBFCs. There is a criteria, the structure, the model which is laid down, which is same as the manufacturing companies. It cannot be so. They requested RBI or the Government of India nominees on the bank board should tell the bank board to have a separate NBFC policy, which can be very objective and workable.
Right.
Second thing is, if there is an over dependence on banks when we talk of the fundings. So we have the most important request which is going on since more than 20 years is a dedicated refinance windows for NBFCs on the lines of National Housing Bank, which is a long-standing demand for the NBFC sector. Our business model provides stable and regular funding for source for the retail sector, etc. And in turn, we need regular refinance window for funding arrangements to cater to the needs effectively. In fact, the Parliamentary Standing Committee in Finance on their 45th report as back as June 2003 relating to Financial Companies Regulation Bill 2000, which lapsed later on, and recommended setting up of a new refinance window institution for NBFCs, permanent basis. Therefore, a permanent solution is paramount. In fact, I would say there is one handy or a ready-made institution which could have been easily used for this purpose, Mudra. But somehow it got lost in the process and criteria hassles. We will request Mudra to take certain issues under consideration for small and medium-sized NBFCs to be eligible to borrow from Mudra and become a permanent funding source. Mudra has a threshold limit of 15 crores NOF for applying to Mudra loans, whereas RBI prescribes just 2 crores. So why have that restriction? Allow all RBI registered NBFCs to avail of refinance. They have an external credit rating criteria, which is 2 notch above the investment grade. We have requested them to have their own credit rating criteria because credit rating agencies per se, Satish, you would know better than anybody else, will not give the adequate rating for the small NBFCs.
Right.
Because for them, small is not beautiful, not workable. So they will never qualify for this. The third thing is they have kept an interest rate cap of 6% between the rate they lend to NBFCs and the NBFCs lend to further, because these are all the microfinance. We're talking of small cap. 6% is highly inadequate. We have asked to raise it to 8 or 10%. And there's
Right.
one more way, of course, Mudra can help is lend to the big NBFCs at reasonable rates who will turn further act as aggregators and get an on-lend to small NBFCs.
Right.
These are all considered issues under consideration more than 3 years, but not addressed so far. Let's hope they're addressed soon. Earlier, the better.
And I must say that you, sir, and FIDC have done a big contribution towards making people to change their way of thinking and all. But I want to now move to a topic which unfortunately has become the center stage of all our discussion, which is the pandemic. You know, the pandemic and the COVID impact and all has affected everybody, and in the financial sector, definitely. And every day you read in the papers about NBFCs or microfinance companies reporting lower than normal profits and all because of the provisioning norms and the write-offs and all. The government has done a lot of stuff for that, including the special windows that it has created and all. But what, according to you, will be the medium to long-term impact of the pandemic, given that we are talking now of a third wave, which might and hopefully will not happen? And more importantly, what needs to be done to make sure that the NBFCs ride this, challenge that has come up, unfortunately?
Yes, but talking of third wave, you already started scaring us. Anyway, this is the most important thing. In fact, the life and the business models and structure, everything has taken 360 degrees U-turn because of the COVID, This came out of the blue, totally unexpected, and no one was prepared for this. This is staying longer than thought earlier, Chaos, there was a chaos first in March 20 when it started, and total uncertainty now. Everything has changed. Office travel, outside work, meeting clients, remaining contactless, not meetings like this. In any case, otherwise we could have added it at a nice 5-star venue and done that meeting. Lockdown became very prominent and it's going on and off all the times. Working from home has become new normal. So this has changed the lifestyle and the business models of working completely. For NBFCs, it has an impact on availability of funds, cost of funds, recovery and collection. What happened in March 20 when suddenly the COVID started was bank funding of NBFCs. Banks suddenly became more risk averse to NBFC sector for no good reasons. The other funding avenue which we had was bonds, NCDs and CPs. There was a change in perception of this mutual funds industry. They also stopped giving funds to the NBFC sector. In fact, they were also scarce of funds, but this created a temporary, liquidity constraint for the NBFC sector for the short time. There was uncertainty and suspicion about the sector. Then FIDC, as you said, moved very, aggressively. We made a representation to RBI, Ministry of Finance, Niti Aayog, SEBI, MSME Ministry, etc. We had online meetings with RBI Governor, Finance Minister, Niti Aayog, and all institutions like SIDBI, NABARD, etc. While the liquidity position tightened, it impact on NBFC's lending, which further had a multiplier effect on funding to all the sectors where we do the financing. But this is the turning point, which you're asking for the FIDC. What came in for NBFCs as a crisis also created an opportunity. And that's the job of, how we put it and get it done. This whole crisis, when it went to the peak, resulted in both the government of India and RBI swiftly swinging into action with a series of measures. There were new issues and solutions which surfaced suddenly on the air, like liquidity, funding, moratorium, restructuring. And these were all addressed from time to time. And BSE's got a never seen before kind of importance and recognition. Moratorium we got. NPA classifications were relaxed. Fundings were liberalized. There were a series of TLTROs where NBFCs got the benefit. Restructuring, we could restructure the loan given by banks to us, by us to the customers, everything. Government of India, first time in life, started guarantee for the loans given to NBFCs. There was a special carve out for small NBFCs. We have been asking, special benefits for NBFCs. Nobody has, the government of India defined what is a small NBFCs. And in the schemes which they announced, Atmanirbhar schemes on 20th May 20, they had a special carve out for small NBFCs. 3 schemes they announced. Additional funding under ECLGS, that is Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme, 100% credit guarantee coverage by NCGTC, and guaranteed emergency credit line, that is GECL facility to eligible MSME borrowers. KV Kamath committee was appointed for one-time restructuring for deciding on the sectors who should get the benefit. There was an ex gratia payment by the government of India for compounding of interest on interest up to the loan of 2 crores. Co-lending scheme, as you said, was then relaxed and enlarged to include deposit-taking NBFCs also. Gold loans become very useful to COVID-stranded families. They could really help the people stranded for the work or the health reasons, and they could get the loans within hours. And that's why we have seen all the COVID times, gold loan companies have prospered and grown. Nowadays, in collections and have suffered due to constant lockdowns, and there's no certainty about that. Sector is seen as slower growth in COVID times. Like FY21 whole was slower and likely to be continuing so in Q1 and Q2 of FY22. However, situation is expected to be better in Q3 and Q4 of FY22, the current year, due to one, slowing of your COVID impact, mass vaccination drive, relaxation on lockdowns, which are expected very soon, demand pickup, festival season ahead, expectation of good monsoon, various relief packages, huge spent on infra by the government, and FDI is also flowing in. Mind you, Satish ji, we were locked out, but never knocked down. In fact, all these representations which we talked, you can see on our social media and website, fidcindia.org.in.
No, definitely. I think that was very well put to sum up what you said. And it's very interesting last 1 year, unfortunately, but very interesting initiatives. I want to move on to something else now, that we've seen some of these NBFCs converting themselves into small banks. We've seen that recently there've been, a bank that was in trouble also acquired by an NBFC. And we've also seen, for example, Sumitomo from Japan buying out Fullerton India Credit, right? So do you see this as a trend, or do you see it as a one-off? And, is that the direction that some NBFCs will take, converting themselves into small banks or getting acquired for fundraising, which you rightly said is a big problem?
Yes. Understand that banks and NBFCs have their own advantages and disadvantages. Both are needed in the finance sector. In good old days, I said earlier, there were three in the financial sector, means three things, banks, NBFCs, and DFIs, the development financial institutions, which are not there anymore now. They're either banks or closed down. So now there are two things. So monopoly of anyone, either banks or NBFCs, is always bad. So both are needed in the financial sector. There are success stories and failures on either side. Regulations today are more or less on par for both banks and NBFCs. The scope for arbitrage is also reduced as big NBFCs access funds in the global markets at a much cheaper rate, compared to banks, and compete directly with the banks in the funding field. To fund corporate and retail sector, both are essential with their unique structuring models. Now, to convert, there is a talk nowadays to convert large NBFCs into banks. I always feel whether it should be mandatory or not, my answer is no. It should never be compulsory. It all depends on the management philosophy, whether they like banks or the NBFC model. What is the obvious advantage of converting into bank? Access to CASA, current and saving account, and availing of the public deposits. These are the obvious advantage of converting into banks, because otherwise NBFCs can't do all these things. We have seen many MFIs converting themselves into small banks last year and a year back. And also one big MFI like Bharat Financial Inclusion merging with IndusInd Bank. These all successful models, apart from the one you talked about. Personally, Satishji, I would always vouch for an NBFC model. Banks have to perform lots of routine and mechanical areas. It becomes monotonous and less challenging. I would say maybe doing lazy banking. A lot of time goes in adhering to compliance norms, and NBFC is a challenging thing, and it gives a lot of autonomy and flexibility to the adventurous entrepreneurs.
Sure. No, that's an interesting observation, definitely. If you look at the range of, there's a diverse NBFCs, there are the big ones, the medium ones, and then of course the small ones. Now, increasingly, one aspect that is impacting everybody is the technology and the changes that have been forced on us, partly where I always felt that technology which would have happened in 2030 is now happening now because of the pandemic. It's been telescoped. So how do you see the investment capacity of NBFCs in technology, and how do you see bringing consistency, because technology is an important contributor to profitability and cost saving and efficiency of service and convenience. So what is your view on that aspect, given the diversity that we have in the NBFC size and shape?
Most interesting thing, when we talk of technology, I say only one thing, TINA factor applies here. There is no alternative to adoption and adaptation to technology. Perform or perish is the mantra. Technology is essential in every operation and system of the financial sector. Fintech companies are the new blend, of finance and technology which have emerged. Traditional ways of banking and financing are reducing. Importance of branches, ATMs, all are coming down. Financial transactions like transfer of funds, buying and selling, collection, reporting, KYC, all can be performed on hand through smartphone, laptop, or any other gadget with you. Technological upgradation is a constant process and it adds to the ease of doing business. What has come in handy further to us is the artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud. These are the new tools. In fact, as we said earlier, there are various components of a transaction in an NBFC bank. There are various softwares and programs now available and accessible for the working of them. In fact, all these are easily available and worked out very well. Number one is a sourcing. There are video calls. We do it, and appraisals are also done through video calls. eKYC, GST data, and credit scores are available. We can just scan through online and get it done. Funding is done by e-banking and pay apps, which are very much there. Servicing is done by compliance, reports, and charts, which are available with the credit bureaus and other things. And recovery, we have various softwares, again, eNACH, IMSS, UPI, etc. So everything is, as you said, every technological importance has been preempted because of Corona, and it's good for this sector. But with all the checks and balances to prevent and detect frauds and errors, this has become great asset in multiplying our business. In fact, the reason we have grown is we save a lot of time in commuting and transporting to the people, and we can now encompass almost whole population of the country. So much so that earlier we used to think of business first and then technology. This has now changed. Now technology first, and this is how we can apply it to our business. Combining each other's strength and digitization is the key factor. In fact, in retail finance, I'll say that being phygital with the right mix is the most important thing.
Correct. So, I can tell you, all the participants, that I've known Mahesh Bhai now for over 25 years. And, and in different roles, and more recently, we have interacted in an increased manner. And honestly, this 1 hour, and we haven't finished as yet. As I told you, we have a couple of more questions and a segment which is interesting. But he could go on and give you different perspectives and different insights into this, because honestly, when you think of the NBFC sector, and I'm not saying this because he's on the line, but you can't not think of Mahesh Thakkar. He has been involved with this through the FIDC in a manner which is unprecedented. So as the Director General of FIDC, what is your message to the NBFC sector, to your participants, to your segment?
Message to the NBFC sector going further?
Yes.
Let's understand the times have changed. There is no alternative to governance, system, and compliance. There are no shortcuts to the financial prudence. Anybody who thinks that you can come in this sector, borrow money and lend money and make money in between so simply is not workable. It's a specialized skill. As I said, you have to put in place every standards, governance, compliance norms, which RBI supervises online, offline, everywhere. And financial prudence is necessary. While you make an application for the NBFC license, RBI goes through as tough as the banking license and sees that there is a professional acumen, there is an experience of the professionals, adequate capital, the working business model, everything is seen very seriously. And it takes about 3 to 6 months for the NBFC license to be granted by RBI. What we need to do is among NBFCs and FIDC, we need to create an awareness campaign among ourselves that we are doing a lot of good work, but it's not being addressed. The government of India and various ministries do not understand the good work done by us in funding and creating employment and providing last mile credit. So a lot of awareness campaign has to be done, and the coordination with various lenders and investors need to be strengthened. One aspect of funding, somehow it got missed in the last 20 years is leasing. We want leasing to be reconnected, and the bottlenecks which are there in leasing, like allowability of depreciation, some extra tax like GST and TDS, if that bottlenecks can be removed, leasing can once again become popular, particularly when the foreign funders or the foreign companies are coming here and staying. They will always prefer the leasing structure rather than owning structure, and that would provide a great fillip to the NBFC sector. Regular dialogue by all the stakeholders and regulators. Somehow, as you said, FIDC, I feel sometimes alone, and many of the people who should be active and for whom we are working should be staying together and giving suggestions to the members and should participate. As in this meeting, many more could have participated and interacted with us.
Right.
The data, one of the most important thing is the data. We need to provide, as I said, data to the all the stakeholders like Government of India, press and media about the good work which is done. And somehow it has not been. We have tied up with CRIF nowadays and we give quarterly basis data on asset side, but that's not grossly sufficient. And last important thing is education and training. You know, we have a professional development committee. What we are now working is the specialized NBFC courses in universities and IIMs, etc., like it is for the banks. You know, if you go to the IIM, etc., there are courses for in the financial sector for banks, but there is no, in that, of course, NBFC is included, but we are working out with Ahmedabad, with Delhi University, etc. For the specialized courses on NBFCs, we are likely to succeed in that. So these are the messages for the NBFCs who are coming in. Come in as a serious player, otherwise you are going to have a tough time.
Right. So, you know, a little personal question to end the series of questions before we go to the next segment. How did you get motivated and to take on a task like this? Because you're playing a coordination role, you're playing the face of the NBFC sector. You're, in a thankless job in that sense, and I know you have been doing this for years, because when we first met, some of the topics you rightly raised were kind of, and they still haven't been addressed. So what is it that motivates you to get into this kind of a stuff instead of starting your own NBFC and doing something completely traditional?
Yes, you're right, Satishji. We met long then earlier when we were in HDFC. I'm the founder, president, ED or DG, by whatever name you call it, since uninterrupted 32 years. It was an association of leasing and financial services companies earlier. And since last 17 years, it's now the Financial Industry Development Council. So it's going on. The board of directors, chairman, co-chairman, all will change, but I continue all the time so far. FIDC, as we discussed, is an apex representative body of all the assets and loan financing NBFCs in India, active since more than 17 years in a self-regulated role on a voluntary basis. I would say a role of a chowkidar, in fact. Members account for more than 90% of the NBFC's book size. We have a countrywide presence with several regional NBFC associations affiliated to it. This is the only apex body recognized by the RBI and the ministries, and we have a regular interactions with them. We have a part of all the pre-budget discussions with the finance minister and his team. We have a very active and vibrant website and social media handles, quarterly newsletter. We have played a very key role in formulating policies on credit guarantee schemes, securitization guidelines, mudra loans to NBFCs, co-lending with banks, flow of credit to MSMEs, liquidity package. Special invitee advisory committee at the RBI College of Agriculture Banking, Pune, since many years. Part of key advisory group on NBFC set up by Ministry of Finance in 2014 when the crisis started. Presentation to the RBI Committee on Functioning of ARC, this happened in May 21, and review of regulatory guidelines applicable to them. Also, we made a presentation to advisory group on RRA, Regulations Review Authority 2.0, constituted by RBI recently. And most recently, we had a very successful meeting with the then MSME Minister, Nitin Gadkari, back on 15th June this year, where immediately within days of the meeting, he made two big announcements. Mandatory Udyam registration was relaxed, Earlier, all those people who were not coming, even not GST was not applicable, they were compulsory to be registered with Udyam. Now, just by giving either Aadhaar card or PAN card, you can get Udyam registration. And included all the most important thing is retail and wholesale traders within the definition of MSME. This has benefited over 6 crore traders. In fact, all the trade associations have complimented FIDC for taking up this issue successfully. But only Nitin Gadkari could have done it so fast and so swiftly. We have strong linkages with IBS, CM, FADA, and other industry associations like CM, FICTI, SOCHM, IMC, etc. We signed an engagement letter, MOU, as you said, with IFC, World Bank Group, where you are also part of that, to conduct training programs on commercial credit reporting and movable assets lending.
Great, sir.
So FIDC functioning is, just to conclude, it's a board of directors, governing council, and various committees, representation committee, legal committee, CFO committee, and the professional development committee. We have a proper and well laid out system of delegation, decentralization, divisions of roles and responsibility, very articulated and democratic way of funding, In any association, I have the principle that there are, in tasks to be successful, there are 3 important criteria: image, impact, and income. And if you are able to meet any 2 criteria, your task is successful: image, impact, and income. We can elaborate it in later.
Right.
And our role has increased quite a lot, in the COVID times. For me, you may say thankless, but NBFC is a passion. As you might have seen, my biodata says hobbies. My hobbies are three: work, work, and work. I believe in power of communication networking, and I'd say that it's not what you know, it's who you know matters. I'm very active in event management and PR. This helps a lot. Believes in effective, clear, timed, and constant communication is the key. In fact, I tell all my members, if you're not received an email from FIDCs for 48 hours, it means your server is down. Check out that. Time management and punctuality is my asset, systematic discipline, and quite strict at that. I know my priorities, targets, and deadlines. I love independence, highest integrity, honest and upright opinions. That's why, been able to maintain that. I almost always overdo the things, put in 125% efforts in that. My approach, I deal with the regulators is bottom to top approach. I go right up to manager GM level and then up to the level. Teaching and learning is both loved by me. I mean, creative bent of my new ideas, new learning, new contact every day. Work for 18 hours and I never sleep.
Fantastic. So on that note, I'm going to move on to our next segment. I'm going to borrow from a popular TV show. And while
before that, just I would like to conclude by one or two things. Let's just take 30 seconds.
Sure.
Because we at FIDC would always say to RBI that, what is the way we can succeed is RBI or the government should enable, enrich, and empower NBFCs. And we know our business very well. We will play increasing role in the country's development and growth.
Absolutely.
In fact, we have grown larger after every crisis. We are here to stay not just for the short term, medium term, but the long term, but for the entire span of mankind. Remember, tough times do not last, tough people do, and that we are. And as the title of your talk suggests itself, I would say we conclude this an NBFC need is a necessity indeed for the economy and MSME sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. But we are not letting you go still. So I've borrowed from a popular TV show. Unfortunately, because in these times I can't have coffee with Mahesh, but we are going to do a rapid fire round with him.
It's a popular and mysterious show we are talking about.
Well, that, I promise I will not ask controversial or provocative questions as it happens in the other show. But let me start with this and let's do a quick rapid fire round and give me quick answers. So the first question is, put these asset classes in ascending order of their risk perception. Vehicles, plant and machinery, housing, office equipment, and consumer durables. Ascending order of risk.
Okay. The least risk profile is vehicles, I will put it. Then comes housing because it has the residual very high. Then office equipments, consumer durables, and plant and machinery, because plant and machinery selling of it, normally fabricated to your own requirements. So it will have a highest risk.
On the other side of the balance sheet, put these funding options in order of preference by the NBFCs. Deposits, bank term loans, NCDs, ECBs, private equity, FI funding.
Okay. I'll say bank term loan is most preferred always, because it's systematic and structured. FI funding is the second, NCD the third, private equity, though tough, it is preferred. ECB may not be accessible by many, and deposits are not allowed anymore, so no question of putting.
Correct. Next one I have is, as a business model, what is preferred as a successful NBFC, a supermarket or a single product?
I will say well-diversified supermarket with utmost professionalism and governance standards, not otherwise,
Absolutely. What do you see RBI's, intervention with the NBFCs an irritant or a good thing? Now, this is a little controversial, so we're not recording. We're recording this, but please.
No, record it. I don't know. I'm sure you do not want it to be my last day today. Yeah? RBI is a strict regulator, and I would say better be that way. In earlier, also first sentence, I said RBI was the savior of the sector and the economy, But also they should play the role of a developer other than regulator, like SEBI, NHB, or IRDA does it. Okay.
So is NBFC a four-letter word?
They used to say it earlier, but not really anymore. And even if it is, it's a pleasure now anyway.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think I asked you this a little bit earlier, but let me re-put the question. Do you repent not owning or managing or being part of a big NBFC? Because you would have been a massive success there equally.
I know that. Not really, because earlier when I started, I must be having, but not the type, size of thing. We used to own the banks, and under that, we used to have 17 leasing companies. But many offers came in, but avoided the temptation. And in fact, I'm chartered accountant, LLB both, but practiced neither. For me, knowledge and education is more important. Nothing like entrepreneurship, creativity, independence, khud ka malik, maintaining and managing own PR.
Okay, so before I move on to the next 3-4 questions in this rapid fire, just a reminder to all the participants, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and Mahesh ji will kindly take them after we finish this rapid fire. Coming back, one major failure, if you were to count, if at all there was one in the last 20, 30 years.
Yes, unable to collect NBFC's data, which is the most important component I should have been able to, but my member NBFC somehow failed me, in spite of tremendous efforts and all tricks applied, Sham, Dam, Dand, Bed. Last 15 years, I miserably failed in that. I accept that.
So I'm sure this is a bigger list. What is your biggest success and achievement in the last 20 years? And I know there's a lot of them, but if you can talk about those 1 or 2 big ones that have happened.
Tough. Can't recollect one-off event except the one which, you were part of it. If you remember, Asian Leasing Convention in 1997 in Mumbai, where we got all the accolades, but one of them. But there will be many. But most importantly, apart from these various milestones, I am personally extremely satisfied that I could establish at all my PR, public relations with, at all levels, at RBI, Ministry of Finance, big industrial business heads, bankers, financial institutions, NBFCs, politicians, bureaucrats, in fact, being in event management, also in entertainment and media sector, film and music world, and also could maintain goodwill and reputation intact since last 30 years. That's this job satisfaction.
So again, as an aside, I should tell all of your participants, because I know Mahesh very well, and this is a public information, so I'm not disclosing something about him which is private. But I've seen 2 DPs of his on WhatsApp. One is with Nirmala Sitharaman, the finance minister, and the other is with Katrina Kaif. So that kind of talks about his range of connects that he has with the world, But I have another question for you. So what, according to you, and I probably know the answer coming from you, what, according to you, is the right retirement age?
What's that? Never. Please work as long as your health permits. What is the retirement? I never understand that.
Perfectly agree with you. I mean, and so what is Mahesh Thakur's escape in terms of, relaxing and doing things other than thinking of the famous NBFCs? What is Mahesh Thakur? What relaxes him? What de-stresses him?
I love music. I love traveling, which is last 15 months has been stuck up. I love cricket, watching movies, and humorous conversations and chats with the friends and families.
Fantastic. That is very, very this thing. Unfortunately, I don't have a hamper to give you at the end of this rapid fire. But since there was no competition and even otherwise, you would have won it hands down. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
But I don't have a hamper right now. But I have a couple of questions which the participants have asked. So I'm going to kind of, So one question that has come, and it's a little long. I'm going to read it out. It's come from Sushil, that government at one place is seeking support of the banks and NBFCs to offer loans to micro enterprises with ease of documents. However, as per the new Gazette notification for classification under MSME Udyam is mandatory. We found that such micro enterprises are not holding PAN and they don't have enough proof. They hesitate to apply for Udyam Aadhaar also. It is challenging now to fund such micro enterprises under PSL guidelines, as we are observing resistance from such micro enterprises to apply for Udyam. Not aware whether this forum is suitable for this query or not, but would appreciate if there is a view or if this can be taken up.
Yes, I'll say this is very much relevant. In fact, we have vociferously argued for this with Mr. Nitin Gadkari, the then minister, on 15th June meeting and earlier also last year. And he was kind enough to accept this. He says earlier the GST registration was compulsory, but they are the MSMEs you are talking of, they are below the threshold. So why take GST registration where your turnover is below the threshold? So that was an acceptable demand. But he said some recognition, some registration of this MSME is essential. So he said you give either Aadhaar card or the PAN card, and that is sufficient. Now, if the person who asked is asking if this is also difficult, then the government of India, because today all individuals have Aadhaar cards, everybody has a PAN card for everything. Why an MSME will not have the PAN card is not understandable. He says just upload on the website either of the two and you will get the Udyam certificate. I don't think this is a difficult term at all.
Absolutely.
Please comply with this and that's sufficient. He could have done nothing better than this.
Okay, we have another question from Mr. Bharadwaj. He says, competition amongst companies in an industry is well known. Essentially, you're competing for the same piece of the pie. Why don't we see a conscious and structured collaboration among companies in an industry to increase the pie size? Or is it too utopian an idea?
No. This answer I had, but somehow in the times, we worked out the various structuring models we take from banks, FIs, etc. We had a meeting with SIDBI chairman last month. One of the suggestions which we gave, and he also liked, and they are working on it, is the SIDBI has, or the banking institute, or any institution will have the allergy to give it to the small NBFCs because of the size, because of the rating, because of the compliance norms, etc. But we have said give it at a reasonable terms to the big NBFCs, which in turn will give it to the small NBFCs. Because when I talk, we say, oh, all small NBFCs are doing well. They are working since 20, 30 years. They have the 100 crores turnover, may not be good enough for you. Say, okay, these institutions are saying, we give it to you, you give it to them. So we are working on the system of double intermediation. Banks given to big NBFCs giving to small NBFCs. And mind you, those who help others help themselves. So this is the structure which we are working at it, and we will be serious it. Already more than 10 NBFCs, big NBFCs, are working on it. I can give the names, or you can write an email to that me. They are giving it. So that's why the whole system of funding is working out in a better manner. There is a competition, but also working with each other.
Okay. The last question I have from someone is, what would be the best way to reach Mr. Thakkar? I've tried FIDC email, the messages don't reach.
Yeah, working on the old email at fidcindia.org.in straight away.
That's right. So FIDC.org.in. Mr. Sharma, that's your answer. Please use FIDC.
And we have all the website and everything is very popular. Just fidcindia.org.in. You can put in all the Twitter. You talk of LinkedIn, or you talk Facebook, everywhere. And every day we are posting something or the other. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I think everybody seems to have heard Mr. Thakkar mention that he is a man for punctuality. So it's just a minute past 12 o'clock, and therefore this is a good time to end this, to thank him for an insightful journey in the past, present, and future. And Mahesh Bhai, of course, will be in touch with you. I want to come and see you one of these days when it's convenient to you also, and talk about some of the stuff you've talked about. But once again, I want to thank you on behalf of Athena, of course, Athena eLearn team, and all the participants who patiently have committed a Saturday morning to listening to you and me talk about a very, very relevant and important component of the financial sector. Thank you very much for your insights, and thank you all participants for participating in what I thought personally was a very educative and a learning experience from a man who's been there and done that and is doing that actually. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. All the best.
Bye.
Stay safe. Thank you.